So after 9/11, we the Times, that is, deployed hundreds of reporters all over the world to cover everything from things that were going on in the Middle East to what was going on in Africa, and to see where the ripples of this event were. I happen to be one of the New York reporters for the Times, and I've lived here all my life, and a group of us got very involved in trying to figure out what had happened at the towers. And when we did that, we began to peel back a lot of kind of the noise, the visual noise around what had gone on that day, because most of what happened was out of sight, and we thought it was important to get into the buildings themselves and to hear from people. And indeed, that became an important issue for many of the families and the survivors who wanted to know what had gone on in there, who lived, why they lived, who didn't, why they didn't. So that's what happened. And some years ago, when the movie The Titanic came out with Leonardo DiCaprio, I happened to stop in an airport bookstore, and lo and behold, there was this big paperback of the Titanic transcripts. They were all the testimonies given by the survivors of the Titanic when they arrived here in New York. They were taken by the ship Carpathia and brought right to the west side of Manhattan. And as they arrived, there was a United States Senate committee that was waiting for them with subpoenas. And for the next several weeks, there was testimony about what had happened on the Titanic, who had escaped, why they hadn't escaped, what the stories were. And that is the foundation knowledge of everything that we know about the Titanic. And indeed, all of the lessons that that we learned, that we took from the Titanic, we don't even realize today when you get on an airplane and they recite the evacuation procedures, or they show you that you have everybody's got a life vest. All of that stuff derives from the Titanic and from the lessons that they learned in those early days immediately afterwards. Now, we didn't have subpoena power, obviously. We had, though, a lot of reporters and a lot of members of the staff who had, on the day and in the immediate days afterwards, collected a huge amount of accounts from people who were inside the building, people who were witnesses, people who knew people. And so in time, a group of reporters, including myself and Kevin Flynn, my co-author, put together a story we called 102 Minutes. It was to trace everything that happened inside the towers. That was the definition of it, because we saw all the other dramatic pictures of people running through the streets and escaping the cloud of smoke. We wanted to know what had happened inside the building. That story turned out to be pretty terrific and pretty interesting. And I think when you look at it today, you might say that over the last decade, really, what happened in those first 102 minutes has yet to be matched in terms of its success and its life-affirming qualities. What happened was that you had 15,000 people inside those two towers. There's a little shakiness on the estimate, but it's between 14,000 and 17,000 people who escaped. Virtually everyone, not everyone, but virtually everyone, below the impact zones in both buildings escaped. And they did it by bringing themselves down pretty narrow staircases under very difficult, hot conditions, moving slow, but they kept the peace. They looked after each other. They made sure that somebody who was hurt from up above could get past and get down ahead. And it's quite a saga, it's quite an odyssey, how people got out of their floors.